and world-centric consciousness needs to pull up in it healthy authority, healthy structure, healthy discipline, healthy personal accountability, and get rid of the ethnocentrism, because ethnocentrism was replaced by world-centrism in the next stage of evolution. And postmodernity then was able to start extending love beyond just all humans, or to really fulfill on the promises of modernity that never quite got fulfilled, right? The same people that were calling for to extend inalienable rights to all humans had slaves. And postmodernity started to really fulfill that vision of modernity, of world-centric perspective, and it brought in a higher multicultural perspective where it started to not only acknowledge but really honor all perspectives and all consciousness, or all perspectives and all cultures and all beliefs and all everything, even sentient beings that are non-human. Most people that have emerged postmodern consciousness, for instance, care about what happens to whales that are swallowing plastic in the ocean. And there's a certain universalistic, from this world-centric, a certain universalistic consciousness that emerges that starts to include all sentient beings. And it becomes kind of the environment becomes very important. This ecocentric, ECO-centric consciousness, right? And so the thing to remember then is, so when modernity was transcended by postmodernity, the indignities of modernity that had crept in, the response to that was that modernity is very focused on fiscal progress, on progress in general, on achievement, on autonomy. And these things started leading to environmental degradation, destruction of other species, unequal wealth distributions, and postmodernity said we got to get rid of that stuff, right? Our capitalistic systems can't become so libertarian that they're oppressing people. We have to have government intervention to keep that in check, or it just starts to eat itself alive, starts to devour its own children. And so postmodernity then its development is a response to everything that's wrong with modernity. So here's the first thing to remember, because I'm going to get to your question, but it's not a simple question. And it's very important. The first thing to remember is that development is envelopment, and as you move from one stage to the next, it is very, very crucially important that you reclaim the enduring features of the stage before, because they are literally the building blocks that you will put the next stage on top of, and without those building blocks, the next stage will collapse. And postmodernity is now in such a pathological state and has been unwilling, because the problem is the stage that you're at, you're looking through. Whatever stage you're creating meaning from, is you're looking through it. And if you're looking through it, it's hard to look at it. And if you can't look at it, then you filter everything from the stage that you're looking through. And it becomes like Maslow's great line, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so postmodernity doesn't see anything but problems and injustices all around it. It has refused to reach back down and reclaim the structure and the discipline and the accountability, which is why Jordan Peterson has got 50 million views telling people to make their fucking bed in the morning. Because we pushed back so hard against that traditional stage because we didn't like the ethnocentrism that turned violent in some groups. Rightfully so, that shit's got to go. But what needs to come with it is structure, discipline, accountability, and not a knee-jerk reaction to all forms of authority or hierarchy. And as we moved into modernity, when it started to become pathological, our extreme capitalistic systems, our modes of government started to devour themselves. We started to when raising shareholder value is the filter you're looking through, then you can't look at the fact that raising that shareholder value is destroying the environment and all kinds of other sentient beings are suffering. And so the postmodern response to that is to not only hate this ethnocentrism and everything associated with traditional values, but to now hate modernity and everything associated with modernity, and threw out the baby with the bathwater. And without the baby, it collapses, and it's in a state of collapse right now. Wicked, ugly, horrible collapse. And it's what we're seeing in all of the identity politics, the fragmentation that isn't inclusive, it's actually exclusive. It's actually divisive. It's actually pitting groups against another. It's allowed tribalism to take over, coming down from these lower stages, tribalism to take over these postmodern platitudes. With no awareness, hated modernity so much, and not only did it hate the kind of progress that was destroying the environment, it just decided it hated progress. Not only did it hate the kind of authority that led to dictatorships, it just decided it hated authority. And not only did it hate increasing shareholder value at the expense of the environment, it decided it hated the entire socioeconomic system and growth in general. And it created what a lot of developmentalists, i.e. Wilber, calls flatland. It's collapsing, it's fragmenting, it's just floating horizontally, and it's provided this space for people who have rejected structure, who have rejected discipline, who have rejected accountability, who have rejected progress, who have objected even critical thought that's a hallmark of the rational modernist stage of development, who have hated fiscal health, who have hated autonomy, and it has no building blocks holding it up. And with no building blocks holding it, it just collapses and it becomes a breeding ground for narcissism. And what's happened in postmodern America is there's a bunch of spoiled little kids all playing victim and all fighting against each other right now. And they're resistant to everything. And it's astonishing that I have to tell 45-year-old people, 50-year-old people, 30-year-old people, 20-year-old people to show up to a fucking meeting on time. It's incomprehensible. You could have never done it in a traditional, structured society. Because they took the perspective of someone else, and when you walk into the meeting, you're disrupting them. But in postmodernity, we don't give a shit about anyone but ourselves. That's what it's turned into right now. And we signal all of these lofty postmodern values, and we use them all as a way to get our way. That's the pathology that's in it right now. Narcissism has hijacked these pluralistic values. And it's provided a space for us to basically do whatever we want, say whatever we want, show up however we want, and just simply say, but all perspectives are equal. who are you to tell me what to do? My voice counts just as much as yours does. And if I want to show up 15 minutes late because I had some issues, who are you to tell me that's not okay? See, that's narcissism. That's not pluralism. But we didn't include any of the healthy traditional or any of the healthy modernists, and now it's collapsing. And so the point is that every stage can go pathological, and usually they do, and that then forms the catalytic agent for the next stage to emerge. Hegel called it dialectic development. It's the breakdown of one level that the next level solves the problems that crept into the next one, and then the next level becomes defined by the solving of those problems. And then it goes pathological. And what I'm saying right now is that postmodernity is in that deep pathological state. And the problem, and the reason it's different than at any time before, is because the stakes are higher than at any time before. Right? The things the mythic world had to get right as they were emerging out of the math world was, a whole lot different than the things we have to get right. There's nothing they could have got wrong that ended the species. There are things we can get wrong that end the species. And there's no leadership at the leading edge, because so much of it is even anti-leadership, because it's anti-hierarchy, because it sees the hierarchy as everything bad and doesn't understand this very existence, that it exists because of a hierarchical development of evolution. And so each of these stages have healthy versions and unhealthy versions. And from Epoch 6, we see the entire spiral. We include the entire spiral. It's the first stage that's actually inclusive. Postmodernity is not inclusive. It is in a state of pitting one group against the other constantly and telling the other group how they have to respond to this group in all situations. And from Epoch 6, since we see the value of the whole spiral, we capture the entire spiral, we embody it. And we also realize that a healthy culture is made up of healthy groups at traditional values, healthy groups at modernist values, healthy groups at postmodernist values, and we help create the institutions and the structures that allow them to be healthy and simultaneously invite them to grow to the next level.